A quiet field on the outskirts of Fleet, Hampshire. At the base of a stone wall sits something that barely looks like a fighting vehicle at all, low, squat, almost awkward. Its hull hugs the ground, no higher than a man's waist. From a distance, it could vanish behind a fence, or simply melt into tall grass. Two soldiers approach. They don't climb in and sit, they slide inside and lie flat, stomachs pressed to cold steel, faces pointed forward. The hatch seals shut. They disappear. Then the machine begins to move, not forward, but upward. From the rear of the hull, an articulated arm rises. Slowly. Deliberately. Hydraulic joints extend and lock in sequence, lifting the structure higher and higher until it angles toward the sky. At its tip, a small gun platform clears the stone wall with ease. Twin Bren guns come alive above the barrier, scanning the open field beyond. From the other side, there is nothing to see. No crew. No vehicle. Not even a silhouette to aim at. Just a small, hovering turret, barely larger than a helmet, searching for targets. Inside, the two men remain hidden. They see through periscopes. They aim. They fire. The machine is invisible. It shouldn't work. It looks like a fever dream, something improvised in a cluttered workshop by an engineer who refused to accept limits. And yet, this strange creation would be tested, evaluated, debated, and remembered for decades. Only two were ever built. Neither would fire a shot in combat. But the idea behind it refused to die. Its name was the Praying Mantis, and it may have been the most unconventional armored vehicle Britain ever put on tracks. To understand why it existed, you have to go back to the trenches of the First World War, and to one man who never stopped thinking about a problem no one could solve. Ernest James Tapp was a machine gunner. He survived the war, but survival wasn't the thing that stayed with him. It was frustration. A machine gunner behind cover was safe. The moment he rose to fire, he became a target. The very thing that kept him alive also made it impossible to fight. There were only two choices: expose yourself, or do nothing. Tapp refused to believe those were the only options. For the next 20 years, he searched for a third. In 1929, he and his brother Percy founded a small engineering firm in Fleet. It wasn't a military contractor, it modified commercial trucks, turning standard vehicles into heavy-duty workhorses for industry. But in that workshop, surrounded by tools and steel, Tapp kept returning to the same idea. What if a soldier could fire over cover, without ever exposing himself? In 1937, he put that idea into writing. His patent described a low-profile armored vehicle with a rising compartment, one that could lift its weapons above obstacles while keeping its crew hidden below. It was precise, practical, and, for its time, almost unreal. So he built it. The first prototype was crude, a one-man machine designed simply to prove the concept. It worked, mechanically. But when the British War Office saw it, they immediately recognized the flaw. No single soldier could drive, aim, elevate, and fire all at once. It was too much. But they didn't dismiss the idea. They told Tapp to try again, with two men. That decision changed everything. By 1943, the second prototype was ready. This time, it was built on the chassis of the Universal Carrier, the most widely used armored vehicle in the British Army. Reliable, mobile, and already proven in every theater of the war. Tapp kept the foundation. Everything above it, he reinvented. Inside the vehicle, the crew lay prone, driver on the right, gunner on the left. Above them rose a long armored chamber, mounted on hydraulic arms. When activated, it pivoted upward, lifting both men and their weapons high above the hull. At full extension, the guns reached over 11 feet into the air, high enough to clear hedgerows, walls, and embankments across Europe. At the top, twin Bren guns delivered a combined rate of fire exceeding 1,000 rounds per minute. On paper, it was brilliant. In reality, it was something else entirely. The problems began the moment the vehicle moved with its arm raised. The elevated chamber wasn't stable. It swayed, violently. Every bump in the terrain sent oscillations through the structure, amplified by the height and weight of the arm. Inside, the crew had no horizon, no visual reference, just a steel box pitching unpredictably in every direction. The result was immediate and brutal. Motion sickness. Severe. Disabling. Not discomfort, incapacitation. The men inside couldn't focus. Couldn't coordinate. Couldn't function. And even if they could, the controls made everything worse. Driving, aiming, elevating, firing, all had to be managed from a prone position, with controls awkwardly placed beneath their bodies. Every action required coordination between two disoriented soldiers who could barely see each other. Then came the final problem, accuracy. Even when everything else worked, the swaying platform made precise fire nearly impossible. Yes, the guns could fire. But hitting anything that mattered was another question entirely. The War Office reached a clear conclusion. The Praying Mantis worked, in theory. It could raise its guns. It could fire over cover. It could keep its crew hidden. But a weapon isn't judged by what it can do under perfect conditions. It's judged by what it can do in chaos. And in chaos, this machine failed. The project was cancelled in 1944. The timing was almost cruel. That same year, Allied forces landed in Normandy, and immediately faced the bocage, dense, towering hedgerows that trapped tanks, funneled infantry, and turned farmland into a maze of ambushes. This was exactly the kind of terrain the Praying Mantis had been designed for. But it wasn't ready. So others found different solutions. American forces welded steel prongs onto Sherman tanks, turning them into rhinos that simply smashed through the hedgerows instead of trying to see over them. German engineers experimented with curved rifle barrels that allowed soldiers to fire from behind cover, an idea as inventive as it was impractical. Different approaches. Same problem. And the same limitation, the technology of the time just wasn't enough. Only 2 praying mantises were ever built. One was scrapped. The other survived. Today, it rests in a museum in Bovington, silent, preserved, but not forgotten. When engineers examined it decades later, they discovered something remarkable. The hydraulics still worked. The arm still rose. Even after 80 years, the idea still moved. Because the idea never died. In the late 1950s, the British Army introduced the Humber Hornet, a missile carrier with a retractable launcher that could rise above cover, fire, and then disappear again. It worked. Modern reconnaissance vehicles do the same thing with sensors and cameras, extending masts above ridgelines while keeping crews safely hidden below. Different technology. Same principle. Raise the weapon, not the soldier. Back in that Hampshire field, in 1943, the concept had already come to life. 2 men lay inside a machine that could see without being seen. But the engineering of the time couldn't carry it the rest of the way. The Praying Mantis never saw combat. It never fired in anger. It never became more than a prototype. And yet, its influence stretches into the present. Because sometimes, an idea doesn't fail. It just arrives too early. And waits, for the world to catch up.